Welcome to the Light 'em Up Lounge. My name is Reinhard Pohorec, and I'm here with my good friend and special guest, Nico Kröger.
Thank you for having me, Rani.
In this episode, we talk about spirit stereotypes. Nico, welcome to Light 'em Up, and thank you very much for joining me today. Let's pour some drinks. First and foremost, the cigars are lit, and then we need to talk about spirited stereotypes, because you're one of the leading experts when it comes to spirits, particularly in the German-speaking countries. You're a manufacturer yourself, so you've got your hands dirty all the way to your elbows when it comes to the spirits world in various different facets, shapes, and forms. Talk to me about what you just poured, and then we'll dive right in, and we'll talk about a couple of dicey topics today.
Yeah, thank you, Reinhard, for having me on your show. It's a great pleasure. And
All ours.
I've poured you a cognac, actually,
Oh, how come?
for many reasons. Because, as I remember correctly, you're a cognac educator from your previous life, right? So I thought, let's do a bit of cliché. Yeah, pour like the old man spirit. And I've got quite keen on cognac in the last 2 years. I never really liked it. I thought it's quite boring because it's all pretty much the same. Because you have many a few big houses who owns everything. But actually the small producers who produce amazing spirits, which I really appreciate. And I poured your Leroy, which is my favorite producer. And this is actually the prototype of my first bottling together with them. And it's like a little sneak peek, because I'm like the first person ever outside the Leroy family who was ever allowed to make his own cognac with Leroy.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's basically my blend, or my assemblage, if you wish.
Posh you. Part of the reason why I wanted to talk about stereotypes is it always freaks me out when people talk about categories of spirits, wines, coffee, cigars, as if it were all one, as if they were all the same. The typical guy talking to you, well, I only drink Chardonnay, right? Or people who only smoke Connecticut shade-wrapped cigars. And you kind of hinted towards that when you said you had certain objections against cognac because you thought it was boring. And sometimes I just feel like we don't express ourselves precisely enough, or we don't really do the topics justice if we say, well, I don't like cognac and all I drink is Chardonnay. Why do you think is that? And why are we so sloppy in our terminology and the way we express what we actually like, what we enjoy, and how we approach these subjects, whether it's a wine, whether it's a spirit or a cigar?
It's mostly because it's easy. The success of McDonald's is not because they make the best burgers, but the people, they know what they don't get. Which means they prefer to take the below average burger, but they know exactly how it's gonna be before they take the risk of going to a different burger joint. The chance that it's gonna be much better is 90%, but they avoid this 10% that the burger is even worse than McDonald's. That's why McDonald's is so successful, because they always know exactly what they're gonna get, and the Big Mac will always taste the same. So I think that's the main reason why the people I only drink this, or I don't like this, just to avoid bad experiences, basically.
So in general, we shy away from exploring different things, and we rather stick to what we know in order not to risk having a crappy experience. But that also takes away the tremendous potential of having a truly magnificent experience and something that takes you off guard and then takes you by surprise. How did you get into cognac then in the end? Or what was it that got you fancy about the spirit rather than just thinking, it's an old man's drink, it's boring and everything's the same?
Well, yeah, basically, I say these things like cognac is boring, because I'm doing a lot of work on YouTube when I'm talking about spirits, and for me it's about reaching the people, and especially for the average connoisseur or for the average person who just sometimes enjoys a glass, I try to break it down in a very simple way. So in general,
besides the fact that you're a very straight shooter and you're very opinionated, which we all love and appreciate, even though not everybody can handle that, but that's fair,
Yeah.
Straight to the point.
And so basically, there are a few companies, like Hennessy, for example. They own over 50% of the market. It's close to a monopoly if you think about it. And what is it? I think the 4 or the 5 biggest houses own over 90% of the market when it comes to cognac. But you have over 200 producers. So the biggest 8 houses have like 98%, I think. So all the rest, all these like 190 producers, they share like 2%. So cognac in general, if I say cognac is boring, I'm quite right. But only there's like an exception to it, to the rule basically. And I was like very privileged to have learned from like one of the greatest bartenders, Alex Kratena, during his time at Artesian in London, which was during the time the best bar in the world. And I was sitting there as like this young man, absorbing everything he had to say. And he told me one thing. He said, everything is great if you do it right. Like every drink is great if you do it right. I was like, ooh, I like that. This is like a whole new perspective, So I changed my attitude basically from like, yeah, this is this. I'm like only looking for, but like now I'm looking for who is able to do it right. Where are the crazy people? Where like, I just went to Cognac again. It has been my 4th time. And I just met these like most amazing producers. Take Leroy, for example. I went to Leroy. And like the owner, the founder of the company was like, he has always his suspenders as well. And we've been standing here and he's such a character and he's just making everything his own way. And you meet the people, you experience what they have to offer, and you experience like the amazing potential of the category, and you just learn, yeah, cognac is not boring at all. You just need to find the right ones, basically.
The other thing is, I think boring is a difficult measurement for a great quality product, because not everything has to be crazy out of the way and crazy exciting or new all the time in order to be a great quality product, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it needs to be complex.
Agreed.
To be great, you need to be complex, and you don't need to be extreme. You don't need to be like crazy when it comes to flavor. But what I want to experience, and it's same for everything what has to do with enjoyment, basically. If it's food, if it's wine, if it's a spirit or a cigar, it's always about complexity. So what I want to experience is, if I smoke something, if I pour something in my mouth, I want like the flavor to develop. I don't want the first impression to be the last. I want something happening.
Something exciting.
Exactly.
Journey. I agree. And so what you're referring to is not the category cognac itself being boring, but the individual products, the cognacs per se, the individual eau de vie being boring by themselves in the glass.
Well, basically, what I'm trying to say,
both.
I was trying to provoke while I said this, that basically the mainstream cognac is boring. And I stick to that, actually. If you have like all these big houses, they're all diluted to 40%. This is cask strength at 49 ABV, for example. You have all these like 40%, they're colored, they're sweetened, you have all these ingredients to it just to be as pleasant as possible. And trying to be pleasant, you will always be boring, actually. It's the same if you produce a video. If you're just trying to, don't offend anybody, be nice to everybody, it's gonna be like, yeah, well, it's
all nice.
Yeah, but it's boring. Yeah. There's no character.
Yeah.
So yeah. Basically, if you look at the language, flavor-wise, of the different producers, of the character of the different producers, they create amazing things and they make just beautiful stuff. But you need to find them, and I'm happy to do the work for you.
But then again, I think of the same issues, the same methodology, the same way of thinking when it comes to different categories. I brought up the example of people saying, well, I don't smoke light cigars, right?
Yes.
I don't smoke Connecticut shade wrapped cigars, or I don't touch Maduro. But here I think it's a different issue altogether, because people are just not educated enough and they don't understand enough about the product. So they feel, well, every light cigar is going to be bland and boring.
Yes.
Every Maduro is strong and powerful, where none of that necessarily has to be the case. Same as I spoke about the Chardonnay example. You can have the shittiest Chardonnay in the world, which is sour, unbalanced, has nothing to it, and you can go to the most voluptuous, elegant, refined, complex Burgundy white that's going to change your life in terms of drinking wine.
Literally.
And pretty much everything in between. And to use another analogy from the cigar world, I think of that a lot when people just rattle off the stereotypical information about a cigar. What's the wrapper, binder, filler, and where is it made? As if that were to tell you everything about the product. Because the blend, the wrapper, it's a Connecticut shade wrapped cigar, and then you have a binder and filler tobaccos from Nicaragua. What does that tell you? I mean, you can have the greatest tobacco on the planet Earth coming from one specific country, and the shittiest tobacco on the planet coming from the very same country. So it's these very stereotypical schematics and expressions that kind of freak me out a little bit, because you barely scratch the surface, but then you portray to the outside world that you know what you're doing, or you know something as the end consumer enjoying the product.
But isn't it understandable a little bit? Because we do need to start somewhere, right? So basically, for me to avoid bad experiences, which I tried to explain with my McDonald's example, I need to categorize a bit based on my experience. And now this is basically where people like us come in. So let's take my YouTube channel as an example. I'm doing lots of videos where I'm testing the spirits from supermarkets, like literally from the discounter.
Especially the discount.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I do is I buy all the spirits from like the discounters, yeah. I build a line and I just try them all, one after another. And why am I doing this? Because I don't make any money out of it. I'm not getting paid by the supermarkets. I'm a producer myself, so basically I'm advertising spirits from other brands. And I'm not talking bad about it. Well, if it's bad, it's bad. But, quite often you would be surprised that the quality is not bad, actually, especially when it comes to price value. So why am I doing this? The reason is very simple. I'm reaching customers who are not as advanced when it comes to taste and experiencing spirits and stuff. They start to trust me because I'm building trust, yeah? Because I'm trying these cheap products and the product they're buying maybe in the supermarket themselves and stuff. And while I'm tasting that, I'm saying, for example, this vodka from this supermarket brand is not very good. But for €8 from this supermarket brand, it's actually very good. So they're like, oh, really? So they get a Mehrwert, we call it in German. How is that in English? Mehrwert. What is
Added value.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So basically what I'm doing is I offer value to my customer who is watching, to my audience, thank you. So now they're starting to trust me. So next time when I say, listen, you might be pleased by that, but if you pay €10 more, you're gonna have twice the experience or 3 times the experience. So I'm I've watched quite a few videos. He seems to be a reasonable guy. So I'm gonna follow him and buy what he recommends. And now we start to go on a journey together. And now I'm taking them by the hand to show them all the world and all the potential when it comes to flavor, when it comes to spirits. So yeah, I think that's our job. And what we want to do with all this beautiful word of flavor, to just take the people on a journey with us.
Quick side note. Oftentimes people say taste is subjective, which is understandable, and we can
argue
agree
about that.
But the point, and that's exactly where I wanted to go, where we need to argue is we need to differentiate between subjective experiences and what we perceive on an aromatic standpoint or gustatory taste standpoint, to the extent of how do you name these expressions?
Okay.
How do you verbalize what you experience?
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of people go into different directions. Because as per your previous experiences, the way you've built your sensory database, some people will say, oh, I get vanilla from this. Others will say, oh no, it's tonka bean. And then the next guy is like, it's toasted oak. So that's kind of the subjective part, because everybody's palate is different, and more specifically, the way we verbalize these things is different. And then we come to the objective part as to what are certain criteria, which are just mere facts, because the product will tell you right away, as to the quality in the production, the way the raw materials are being handled, the way the product is put together. And there is what you were hinting towards. That's when we can start to argue, because there are certain objective criteria by which you can measure, is this a qualitative product?
Yes.
Or not?
Exactly. So, yeah, I love that topic, because we need to differentiate between my personal taste, what I like, versus what is good. And these two things don't have anything in common. Well, they might, but they don't have to. So, for example, if you are a judge for like a tasting panel, as you know, it's not about, oh yeah, I really like this. It's like, you don't judge by that. You only judge by how well is a product made, how well is a product actually. And we break it down to balance. It's always about balance. So a great example for this are these like heavily peated Scotch whiskies. I don't want to call brands because I'm gonna talk in a negative way, and I don't want to talk negative about a brand on your channel. I do this on mine. So I get the trouble, not you. So basically, the people can say, I really like this, and it's my favorite whiskey. You can do that, but it's still not good because the balance is not right. You can go in an extreme direction, but let's stick with the example of a very peated whiskey. If you do have a very peated whiskey, you always need something which is able to like fight the whiskey, or to like stick up to it, basically. If it's just peat in your face, again, it might be your personal taste, but the quality is not good. The product itself is not good because there's no balance, there's no complexity. It's very simple, it's very straightforward. It's a simple product actually at the end. And
well, unless that's the intention of the manufacturer, that's where he wants to go, and then the vision is well executed, it can still be a decent product, or it can have certain value or merit. No. It can have its place in the market.
That's different. That's different. Sorry to interrupt. It can have it can have its place in the market, of course, but there's a market for everything. You could have like a unfermented cigar, you know, and just burn it with a torch because otherwise you can't light it. And you will have all these like ammoniac and stuff in your face. And if for some reason you like this, you know, that's fine, but it's still not a good cigar. Yeah. It's not well made, you know.
Agreed.
So I like to take these like extreme examples just to make a point at the end. Yeah.
Fair enough. And then, you know, the argument can still be made that there's an ass for every seat, and
no, it's fine, which is fine.
People's preferences are different, sure. and that's where you said, you know, there's a market for pretty much everything, but that doesn't make a product.
Exactly. Let's say I'm a restaurant tester. You know, I test restaurants, and I love the taste of like burnt meat. I just love it. You know, I prefer my steak with like a big charcoal. You know, I love it. Yeah, so now, if I'm in a restaurant and I get this like perfect beef Wellington served, am I gonna judge it in a bad way because it's not burnt how I like it? You know what I mean?
Who's the ultimate authority of quality?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. To be honest, I think you have to build yourself a reputation that you have certain skills to be able to be that authority. And I think it's actually the market who decides. Like, take me as an example. I do have all these like certificates and whatever, you know, I'm a master sommelier and I'm a trained sommelier and all these like fancy titles, right? But what does that mean? On paper, I know what I'm doing, but who's able to judge it? Honestly, like who can, you know? So me, for example, the great thing about working in a bar, about having my own bar, is I had a lot of people as a guest. And it's quite sneaky, I always tested them. So I just poured them something and said, just tell me something about it. And I wanted to see how the people react. I tried to manipulate them. So to see, am I able to confuse them, or, you know, are they so strong that they trust a palate? You did very well, actually, when I did all my tests. You have been one of the top 3 of all times I tested. Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you this, actually.
You did not?
Yeah, no, that's why I appreciate you very... well, I appreciate you as a person, but I appreciate your opinion when it comes to taste, because you passed all my tests in an excellent way. So this is just for me. That's why I know that you're great. But I think the ultimate way of having like influence, of being someone whose word that other people trust, is by building a reputation. Like, again, with my example, with my YouTube channel, after you followed a few light steps I offered, or you followed a few light recommendations of my side, you're gonna notice quite fast, well, actually, I start realizing this guy is not saying this because he's getting paid for it, he actually means it. So, as an example, I'm recommending this vodka for like €12.19, you know, like 13 euros. And I say, honestly, this is the best vodka ever. Forget all this fancy stuff, you know, whatever. And when the quality is so amazing, the people buy it, they put it in the glass and they're like, oh, wow, this is, I'm getting goosebumps right now. This is different. It's not the same. So with small steps like this, baby steps, I'm building a reputation. And now when I say, okay, listen, like my cognac, for example, the bottling I did with Leroy, it's going to cost €150. It's a bit different than 13 euros. But I build a reputation when I say, listen, I made this. This is so great. Half of it is 1990. It was aged for like 35 years in a cask. You know, it's cask strengths and everything. It's so full of character and complex. And then the people are like, okay, I've never tried it before, but I trust him, and that's why I'm still going to buy it.
Excellent point.
So yeah, to answer your question, the crowd will decide.
What, in your opinion, is the best spirit in the world?
It's rum. It's very simple to say. So easy. I mean, look at the back of the shelf. It's all here. It's all like Armagnac and cognac and stuff. There you have many whiskeys and you have some gin and stuff. I do like that as well. I appreciate every spirit. As I said at the beginning, I think every spirit is great if you do it right. So I'm not against any category at all. But rum is the most complex and most amazing spirit, like by far.
For which reasons?
For the complexity, of course. And it's funny, because the explanation, the reason is that it's not regulated that strong, which seems to be like a very negative point, but actually it's not. Well, it has a lot of negative aspects to it, but the great thing about less regulation is that you are more able to play around. You can use different types of fermentation, different types of stills, different types of aging.
Room for interpretation.
Yes, that's it leaves room for creativity too. So yeah. The effect on flavor I can have by making rum, if I use a fresh pressed sugarcane juice, or if I'm using a mock pit and dunder to dilute my molasses and to ferment it over 8 weeks, like the flavor profile is amazing, and the difference is amazing. If I leave it up to nature and work with like natural yeast, the way I distill it, you know, the art of distillation, which has a huge impact on the body of the spirit, all these type of things, where I age it, in which climate. So all these small details add to like the most amazing, to the biggest complexity and variety.
It's interesting you say that, because we seem to go through cycles in different categories and spirits. again, take wine. There was a certain moment in time where everything pretty much tasted the same. Everybody was using the same strains of yeast. The wines all had a bit of that candy-like quality to it. You wanted to have a bit of oakiness to come with it, especially for whites. Pleasant, 14% alcohol, full-bodied, rich, same taste profile, a little bit of oak to round the whole thing off. And it was just pleasant. It was very well made. It was playing by the book, playing by the rules, but it became uniform. Boring, to your point.
I would say.
Whereas afterwards, everybody went against the typical notions of how you're supposed to do things and started going wild and funky with the whole natural wine or minimalistic interference trend. And you let Mother Nature do its magic. And I think of that with the rum as well. Some people, when you go to the Caribbean, to certain islands, or to Middle and South America, and you see how some of that stuff is made, coming from a European perspective, you're like, oh, Jesus, fuck. We need to get this cleaned up, right?
Yeah.
It looks dangerous. And
that's a secret sauce.
HACCP would already be like, oh, this is not how you're supposed to do things. But that's exactly where the complexity comes from, as to your point, right?
Yeah.
So maybe sometimes being less perfect and less streamlined is actually a way to go in order to reach different levels of complexity.
Yes, but to be fair, it's like it's very often you can compare like the wine industry to the spirit industry, but the spirits like eau de vie, they are so high in alcohol content, they are not able to turn bad at the end. They can, of course, the alcohol can evaporate and you lose all your body. But a spirit doesn't turn bad. If it's sealed properly in a glass bottle, if it's not in contact with the cork, you can, 100 years later, you can still drink it or give it to your grandchildren, yeah? With wine, it turns bad, it oxidizes after a while. And so when it comes to all that cleanliness, which take Jamaican rum for an example, the way they do things, you would not able to do it in Germany because they would simply close the facility, literally, but after distillation, it's fine anyway. But that's a bit, I need to go too far down the rabbit hole to explain that point, why it's actually very beautiful. What I'm trying to say is that with the wine world is so far ahead to the spirits world.
And to the cigar world.
Yeah, you might judge. I like smoking cigars, but I'm not deep into the cigar world, so I'm not able to judge, but if you say so, that's probably right.
In terms of the flow of information, education, I think it's certainly the case.
But what I experienced from the spirit world, and I think it's similar in the wine world, you have the certain trends, because the people, they do appreciate a good wine, they do appreciate a good cigar, they do appreciate a good spirit, but, and I mean, it's normal, we don't do anything else. It's all we do. We only do we work with stuff that tastes good. Like you and me, as an example, it's quite similar our journey. We didn't only look at wine and spirits, we looked at wine and spirits and perfumes and chefs, We took all the world of flavors and smells in. That's another point why I appreciate your opinion so much, because I know you get the full picture. But this is us. We are like geeks, we are nerds, and we don't do anything else. Literally all our life just turns around it. I don't do anything else. I like playing with my son and doing nice trips with my family. But at the end of the day, I only take them to see distilleries. Literally, I'm not kidding. That's all we do. I'm glad that they enjoyed as well. So I can say, all my life just turns around this. But you can't expect this from a person who just after work enjoys a nice glass or cigar, right? What are we talking about here? So what the people do is they appreciate it, they are interested in the topic, and they like to educate themselves, but still, compared to our point of view, it's still always a bit oberflächlich. What is the superficial, which is I'm not being judgy. It's understandable, right? Because I have a job. another job. And so what I noticed in the spirit world, and this is my point I'm trying to make, you get certain trends. Like in the rum world, for example, there was like esters. Everybody was talking about high ester. So Jamaican rum just went crazy. I mean, Hampton Estate, the god of Jamaican rum. Until like a few years ago, they didn't bottle rum by themselves. They only sold to like bulk rum to like whoever. But the brand Hampton Estate wasn't on the market from them directly. It's like by now you can't imagine this because the brand is so strong, because the demand is so high. But this is because like there was a trend for high ester. Everybody was talking about high ester, but still nobody understood high ester. If you ask all these like rum geeks in the like Facebook groups, guys, actually, what is high ester? Nobody's able to tell. Nobody's able to tell you what ester is. Again, I'm not trying to be to judge these people, which is fine. They have other jobs, right? But my point is that we talk about things without really understanding them. The market reacts. They offer high ester rum. Everybody's now doing high ester rum. You have the most intense high ester rum from Barbados now, actually. Yeah, not Jamaica anymore. And in the wine world, it's similar. Everybody's crying for like full-bodied, heavy in alcohol, you know, cask-aged Chardonnay. Thank God that's gone by now, the trend. I like cask-aged Chardonnays, but it went crazy at a certain point, you know. And that's always like a cycle.
And I think we see that in pretty much all industries across all different consumable products.
I think so.
Oftentimes I wonder whether it's the chicken or the egg, if that makes sense. In the sense that...
It's the egg, to answer your question.
I'm glad you already know the answer.
Yeah.
Of course you do. But is it the consumer asking for certain things, or is it the industry? Is it the manufacturer pushing certain things?
I think it's both. Everything works together. So for the customer to ask for a certain thing, like there are not many people, very often we trust a person in something. Like, for example, if I wanted help to install like my lighting for my studio, yeah, I don't have a clue about lighting or like camera perspective. I don't get it. Like literally, when I'm asked to combine colors, you know, I've got a very good taste when it comes to my palette, but a taste when it comes to clothes and adding like matching colors. Like my wife, sometimes I'm going down the stairs and like, what are you doing? What are you wearing? What is this? You know, you can't. There are like certain rules. You can't match this with this, and she sees that. And I'm like, this looks fine to me. You see, I don't get it. I don't have the eye for these details. She does. And when it comes to that, there are not many people who are able to judge it profoundly. They just repeat, which is fine, what people who are very good in that topic say. So for me, for example, if I go to like a very important thing, well, no, I got it quite easy because I'm wearing the same thing all the time when I'm in public. Yeah, so I'm always wearing like, this. Yeah. But when it's about like, for example, I have to go to a wedding and I'm dressing in a suit and, you know, I'm asking her which socks, which color should I match to this because I don't get it and she gets it. So her opinion means a lot to me because I trust her. Same when it comes to good taste, right? Everybody has this like friend in a group who is very into cars. So if I want to buy a new car, what do you think what I'm doing? Like,
he's the guy.
Exactly. I'm calling this guy and saying, listen, I need a car, I need this, 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 and this. Which one should I get? And he told me I should get a Volvo CX-60. That's why I get it. I have no idea about cars, I don't know anything. He told me get this, I got it. And if I would think about a new cigar I want to taste, or if I'm seeing a cigar, I'm sending you a picture, I'm like, what do you think? Should I get it? And I have all these friends sending me pictures, which bottle should I get? I have this occasion, I want to make a present for this and this person, which should I get them? So we have always these people who are strong in a certain field. And these people are basically the influences in very small doses in life. So in general, this is building huge opinions about things, and people develop in a certain direction. And these people, these small micro-influencers in private life, they read certain blogs, they watch my YouTube channel or whatever. And this is how information are built. And where do I get my information from? I'm visiting a producer. This producer is making it's making an amazing product. I'm learning something new. I'm like, this is amazing. The flavor profile you just created is awesome. Now I'm making a video. I'm sharing this with my audience. They watch it. They show it to their friends. And this is basically the whole journey, how everything interacts into each other. And this is why at the end, certain people have a certain demand for something, because after a while, you know, people start asking for, demanding certain flavors, or yeah.
And
Does that make sense?
The industry fuels that. You mean, so it's kind of like a back and forth between supply and demand. It's the chicken and the egg.
Yeah. Actually, no, I don't think so. I don't think anymore that the industry have that much of an effect to it. I think 10 years ago I would have said, yes, that's true. But I think by now, the time is simply gone. It's too fake. Like everything, when you look at the market, like all these stupid advertisings, everything, I call it shiny shit, yeah? Everything is perfect, and you know, it's all the colors and pictures, everything is spotless, and you know, and then they're like, oh yeah, this is why I enjoy drinking. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like at all. So I think the industry, they lost their touch to have a proper influence on the people. I think it's gone actually. And so let's stick to the example with the Jamaican high Easter rum. How everything started is like, because this one amazing entrepreneur, Luca from Villiers, he started digging into it. But this is after like centuries of work in the past, where he built like an amazing foundation, an amazing trust, so people just start buying what he said was amazing, what he bottled. And this had like the effect on the market, not Hampton Estate, the rum producer themselves.
And then the industry follows these spikes in demand, and they react.
And that's the beauty of the free market.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Nico, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Sitting down with you, and I hope we could debunk and demystify some of these stereotypical ideas that people have of products, whether it's spirits, wines, cigars. We will do this again very, very soon.
Thank you.
And we should. Thank you for being our guest at the Light 'em Up Lounge. And we always wrap things up with our little greeting, and you know this one. We'll see you next time. Until then.
Do I have to do that as well?
Light 'em up. Cheers.
Thank you.